you ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Don't you wish you owned this company? I mean, seriously, how many of these have you bought? Thousands? Am I the only person who spent thousands of dollars on Clorox wipes? Hi, everybody. Robert Bannon here, and welcome to the bonus episode of the Roundtable. We call it Roundtable Talks. Jada Pinkett, that's my own idea. Don't come after me, Red Table Talks. How y'all doing? Well, have you ever wondered where are they now? I often loved that show. Do you remember it on OWN? I remember it on OWN. Well, today I have a Where Are They Now? As a kid, I loved Cheaper by the Dozen. I know there's a new reboot, so a whole new generation of people are discovering Cheaper by the Dozen. And I also love Desperate Housewives. I mean, who doesn't like scandal, greed, murder, pool boys, cheating, drama? So we have the two twins who had made their debut, and both of them, they have a crazy story about how they got discovered. They're going to tell us all that information and more. Where'd they go these past few years? Well, to college, like smart people with good parents. Take a peek. Do you remember this? All right, everybody. Our next pair of performers are no stranger. They've been on your television screens and movie screens for decades. They're all grown up, and they have a whole new chapters ready to begin. We've been watching Brent and Shane. I don't know. They were like little mini cute little twins, and we've been watching them on TV. I want to know all about it. So Brent and Shane are here, and we're going to talk about their career in Hollywood and beyond. You're here. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
You're grown. What happened? I'm an old man now. What is going on?
Yeah, all of a sudden we're pushing 25. All of a sudden.
I saw Desperate Housewives rerun the other day. You were still in a stroller. What happened?
That's so every time somebody recognizes us on the street, they go, "Oh my gosh, you guys grew up," not thinking that we're, 8 years, we haven't remained 8 years old.
Forever. No, you are not. You are not 8 years old. How did theater and television, acting is what I'm trying to say. How did acting come into your lives? You were so young. Was it and how was your family's involved? Tell us how this started, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was kind of a godsend fluke situation. Our parents were never looking originally to put us in the industry. And what happened was we had just turned 4. Mm-hmm. So we were super, super young, and we went to a Dodger game with our family. And
go Dodgers.
That's right. Yeah, we bleed blue for that reason. Hell of a cow. But, so we went to the game, and we were so high energy. As you saw, what you saw on screen is exactly what we were like off screen. And so we went to the Dodger game. We had the blue hair and the foam fingers and all that, and just bouncing off the walls. Got on the big screen a couple times, and there happened to be a talent agent sitting a couple rows behind us, and he was the head of their commercial department, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so he leaned over to my parents and said, "Hey, I noticed your little fireball redhead boys. Have you ever considered putting them in the industry?" And it wasn't a thought at all. But one thing led to the next. They got each other's contact information, and we ended up signing on with him and auditioning for a national Tylenol commercial. And we nailed it. And so we didn't play twins in that one. We actually switched off as one character. And then from there, that led a couple months later to the Cheaper by the Dozen audition. And again, even still, when we booked the Tylenol commercial, it wasn't like our parents weren't in hot pursuit for us, but we went through.
It fell into place. It's almost like as we walked forward, the carpet unrolled in front of us.
One thing led to the next, and Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2 happened, and Desperate Housewives, and the rest is history.
And that is a really interesting fact. And the more I talk to artists, and I'm grateful to talk to people who have done work in this business, it's kind of like there's a lot of, I don't know, divine intervention, fate, whatever you believe, whatever people believe. Like there is a journey, and you guys have just at your young age just leaned into it. It was your skill set, and it was truly meant to be. I mean, I grew up watching, I remember these two very well.
I love that picture.
The good old days.
And I mean, this cast, this ensemble that start with Cheaper by the Dozen, it's such a brilliant, fun family movie, all of them. What a fun moment. I remember watching it in the movie theater with my own family. Do you have memories? You were little. Do you remember what it was like to go to work?
I think we both remember probably more from the second one than we do the first one. The first one, I think we have like photo albums. We have tons of photo albums. Our parents took a ton of pictures throughout the years, and we have just stacked photo albums of all the pictures. They documented everything that went on the set and stuff. So it's like one of those things where we'll look back at the picture and you know how it'll sometimes just like shoot you straight back to a memory. It's cloudy from the first one. We were 4 turning 5, I believe, in the first one. But in the second Cheaper by the Dozen, we were 7 turning 8. So it was a couple of years later. And we actually got to take the summer and go to Toronto, Canada, because that's where we filmed. And I remember a ton about that. It's still blurry, of course. We were kids, but our parents documented the whole thing too. And you look back on pictures and you can almost just like see what we, like you can taste the taste and smell the smells, and looking at the pictures just shoots us straight back. So, I mean, I remember a little bit, of all of it, but
and really fond memories too. Like, it wasn't just the big happy family on screen and then everybody kind of went their own ways off screen. All the kids got together, and I remember, was it for the second or the first one we played Donkey Kong Bongos?
Oh, the second
a
one.
lot. I think it was the second one. We would go into a trailer and we'd all play video games, and
GameCube.
We were super blessed with a great cast and crew off screen as well as on screen. So.
And it shows, because your chemistry in that show, in that movie, is so fun, and it looks like you guys are having a good time. When you were a kid, not coming, not the, you guys, as you're saying, you don't have the typical stage parents. You don't have the parents that are that they're supporting you, but that wasn't the original intention. We hear so many stories about child stars and the wild ride that they take. For you both, what was it that kept you grounded? What is it that keeps you here, successful with a whole other life other than just entertainment? What do you attribute that to?
Well, kind of as we explained, we were spread a little bit thinner in life as we were growing up and acting. It wasn't all acting. And I think what happens with a lot of these other child actors, not all of them, but some of them, the stories that you hear, they end up being the main breadwinners of their families, and their parents are really kind of pushing it for them. It's like when a parent pushes their kids to do sports too much, and the kid kind of loses desire, but I don't, for whatever reason, their dad or mom pushes them to do the specific sport, and they get spoiled and sick of it. But for us, while we were acting, it was important for us and from our parents to put us into sports and put us into school, and so we made friends like regular kids, and we had very much a balance of regular kid life, playing baseball, playing football, doing airsoft wars up at the local, middle school or whatever, mountains, and also when it was time to work, it was time to work. So I think that we got lucky because we got a little bit of both, and that's been formative.
I think a big part of it was good parenting. It's everything that Brent just said too, but also when we were on set, our parents didn't allow us to kind of indulge in the entitlement that sometimes the industry feeds to its stars and stuff. I mean, they will mop the floor behind you, if you ask them to. Right. And our parents never, because we were so young and there were such formative years, our parents never let us, we had to pick up our wardrobe that we dropped on the trailer floor, and we had to clean up after ourselves. And we were just held accountable from such a young age by our good parents. So we never got to spoil the way that maybe some of these other kids unfortunately do. And we pulled weeds during the summer when we weren't working. We worked. We went up to the local baseball field and helped the groundskeeper, maintain the fields, and we did some dirty, gritty jobs too. So very much the balance of both.
And how did you balance school as kids when you were working and on set and auditioning and taping? How was your school experience? Did you have a semi-normal school experience, elementary school? And
as normal as it could have been. It was semi-normal. I mean, we had a set teacher, both during Cheaper by the Dozen, like we said, it was over the summer, so we were in school. But when we were filming Desperate Housewives, we were blessed. We had such a great set teacher who was with us pretty much through all the seasons, throughout the, all the time that we were on that show. But when we weren't filming, we weren't main characters. So we'd go in for like a week at a time. So we'd be on set school for a week at a time. And then, we'd have a couple weeks off or maybe a couple months off. and we'd go back to regular school. And just the community that we grew up with, we're on the outskirts of LA, right outside of Pasadena.
Okay.
And we're in a small town, and it was just a very, growing up, it was a very small, tight-knit community. You know, baseball, sports were big. Family values is kind of a big thing here. And so, you know, the friends that we have now and the friends that we'll probably have forever are the kids that we grew up with when we were 5, 6, 7 years old during all those years.
And also to add to that, I mean, growing up in, it's not a small town, but it's not a big city. Everybody, you know, word spreads kind of like wildfire. And we started so young that going through elementary school and middle school, everybody kind of knew us and knew our names.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was no, you know, there was no, like, nobody was starstruck or anything. It was just the way things were. So very, very normal childhood.
That's what it's really nice to hear, because
Mhm.
and the work that you guys did. What was the difference? You spoke a little bit about it, but what's for the average person watching who's not in show business, who's not an aspiring actor, that's just a fan of the work? What is the big difference to you between shooting a movie over the summer where you're with that crew for, you know, a couple of months versus an episodic television show with a different plot, different lines, different actions? Was it is it approached differently in terms of your schedule? I mean, Housewives is a longer
Mm-hmm.
stretch of time. So
Right.
what was the difference in experience?
Probably the biggest difference was when you're bound to a contract for a long running show like that. I mean, we had to be really careful with what sports we played, that we didn't, you know, go throw baseballs at each other's faces and get our faces all dinged up and black eyes.
Which
and the whole thing.
which we have always.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you can tell on camera. I think it's a little mark on my right eye.
Oh, no.
It's a jiu-jitsu tournament. Yeah, we just had a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I got punched in the face.
We're always getting our
but
faces busted.
We're not under our contract right now.
Right, you're okay. It's okay.
Yeah, anyway, that was probably the biggest difference between television and a movie. Whereas, like, you know, when you film a movie, it depends on how long the production is. But like we said, the second Cheaper by the Dozen, for instance, was a 3-month production. And so we were under contract and on site up in Toronto, Canada for 3 months. So that's a long stint of time. And that's, depending on how you look at it, it's a summer missed out with friends. But it was also, I mean, we had plenty of friend time growing up and stuff, like we explained. So we really had the best of both worlds, where we'd get to spend this incredible summer one year on set with a bunch of, you know, like filming a movie with some really great stars, great cast and crew. And then we'd go home and we'd go back to school and live our normal lives and stuff. But really, I don't think that I think the contracts are probably the biggest thing in terms of the difference between TV and movies. But
Well, and that can also vary. It depends, because like Shane was saying earlier, we weren't, you know, on Desperate, let's say, and even Cheaper, for that matter, we weren't the main front runners. You know, we weren't Terry Hatcher or Steve Martin or whatever. And I think the difference there is, with a movie script, you kind of have a whole comprehensive story. So in terms of comprehending the project, I think that you can see it from A to B. Whereas where you know, you're filming an episodic like Desperate Housewives that went on for, you know, 7 or 8 seasons or whatever, you kind of have more time to grow into your character and watch it develop over time.
Absolutely. Well, you were quite the little troublemakers in this show. You were quite, it looked like fun. You didn't have to always behave yourselves on set. You got to have a lot of fun and live a lot of action and activity. When Housewives ends and when Cheaper ends and all was done, did you fall in love? Like, my question is, you guys still are actors. So is it something that you fell in love with the art form? It came for you out of, I don't know, circumstances that are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you realize, hey, I love this. I love bringing characters to life and doing the work?
I think, you know, when you start that young, it's so deeply rooted. It's so deeply rooted in both of us. I mean, so like we had stopped acting for a little while when we were 12, I think it was. And then we focused more on sports, and we made a decision to either, we could have really gone into the acting thing, or we could have done the sports school route, and we chose the latter. And then we graduated college. But, you know, looking back now on those years, in light of our return to the industry, I mean, those, you know, I still remember what the sets would smell like. You know, I remember it's just, you have certain memories and certain formative experiences when you're a child that are so deeply rooted into your DNA. I think it just and it's funny too, because we didn't always plan to make a return to the industry necessarily. I mean, when we
Not
were
at
growing
all.
up in our teenage years, we were figuring out what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do. But it's funny how things came full circle, and it kind of had called us back, because
It definitely did. It called us back. We
Yeah.
kind of figured that we packed that whole chapter up in a box and put it away in the attic, so to speak. But as we got into college, we both studied agriculture in college, which is obviously nothing to do with
way off
acting and
the beaten
movies.
path. Yeah.
It was just what we were interested in at the time, vaguely. But towards the end of college, we kind of had this call, this sort of feeling, this draw back to the industry. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like Brent said, it's so deeply ingrained in who we are, because those were such formative years as such young people, that it's got to be just inevitable. It must have just been fate.
It is. It's fate. Well, I was going to ask you about agriculture, because you go on to high school, then you both go to college. And I know, like, San Luis Obispo out there it's like the gorgeous rolling hills of California. It's the most beautiful city. I think I was out there to see that light installation that was out there that was like all lit. They did this outdoor art exhibit, and I never had been there.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like,
Wow.
where am I? This is a magical place.
Yeah.
You came here to study both of you studied agriculture. So what was the journey as you went through high school to lead you to that as a choice? What when you said you were both interested in that, what tell us a little bit about
agriculture. So agriculture, that was, in hindsight, kind of a funny choice. I mean, it made sense at the time. So when we were 17, graduating high school, about to go into college, we went to, like we said, we went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and they make you declare your major out of the gate, as opposed to taking all of your general eds for the first 2 years and then being able to declare your major, later on. So as 17-year-olds, we didn't really know what we wanted to, do with the rest of our lives. But we grew up, after acting, we grew up athletes. We played baseball, football, anything with the ball. Under the sun. And we were always into kind of like sports and nutrition. And so we wanted to either study, well, I'll speak for myself. I was either going to study physical therapy, or it was going to be kind of like food and nutrition. And I figured that the best way to do that would be not only to go to my dream school of Cal Poly, but to study agriculture, so I could figure out, where the food, all the steps in between where the food comes from the farm to where it hits your, your dinner table. And so it was kind of like agriculture as a branch of having an interest in like nutrition and stuff like that. And it's probably the same for you.
Yeah, I mean, we also had family friends that were an influence. Like, we went to high school with a kid whose dad works for a major citrus distributing company. And I mean, the industry, agriculture, is a pillar of society, right? Everybody's got to eat. Yeah. And so the industry is massive, and there's so much that goes on between farm to table. And so we had a couple conversations with our buddy's dad about it, and he went to Cal Poly as well. And so he just kind of pushed us in that direction, and it just kind of ended up working out that way. And then lo and behold, I find myself first quarter in Cal Poly taking a tractor mechanics class, and I'm out in the fields at Cal Poly driving tractors. So
it's such a neat thing. I mean, be as diverse and as many know a little bit about everything.
Right.
Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
Right, yeah.
So it was fascinating when I was reading about you and researching what you guys have been up to. And I was like, agriculture, both of them, which leads me to the question, both of you, and I'm sure you've been asked this forever. You're twins, obviously. What is your, do you have other siblings?
It's just us.
It's just you guys.
So, our parents got the 1-2 punch, and they were like, no more, man. No more.
Growing up and working together and being so publicly, you two are linked together. How do you manage your connection together, but also create a form of individuality and your own identity? Has that been something that's hard? Is it intentional? Like, how do you guys approach this? I'm a teacher in real life. I teach 5th grade, but I'm not doing all this fun. And I have twins, and the twins are not in the same class usually. Yeah. And the last day last year, they switched, and that was like the big joke in the class.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
So, but I'm very careful as an educator they deserve their own identity. It's not, you're just not so-and-so's brother. So how do you guys deal with you guys as family and as a relationship, especially that it's only the two of you, but also to create your own individual selves?
I think that our parents were played an important role, and our teachers as well. Lots of our adult influences growing up played an important role in recognizing that although we have the same face, we are two individual people, and we did grow up playing the same sports, and we had the same group of friends, but we most of our differences are not so much in our interests, but they're in our just the nuances and our demeanor and in our just like we're any different individual. people. We have different predispositions, and so it is important, like you said, for parents and educators to nurture those predispositions, because as a twin, we'll always be linked together to a certain degree. It's much harder to nurture the individuality, of two twin individuals than it will ever be to separate their their likeness and stuff. So and it's not even. I think it's not. A lot of people on the outside do it out of for their own convenience. They say, "Oh, the twins," and it helps them make sense of it in their minds. But on the receiving end of it, I mean, it's the constant comparison game, right. And that has been one of the greatest challenges growing up. Trying to figure out who we are as individuals and who we think other people perceive us as individuals. And so our friends have been really good at separating us. And granted, they know us, better than anybody else on the planet. So they do know those nuances that I had mentioned earlier. But, I think as we've grown into adults, especially coming back into the industry, we've realized that it's far more advantageous for us to work together than it is to separate, at least for this point in time. Especially for, like a brand, and just that's how people recognize us. And we work very, very well together. We have a lot of complementary, which is a learned skill. That's the truth.
That's been a learned skill. That does not come naturally.
I was going to circle back to that. It's been a work in progress. I mean, we've had some knockdown dragouts, but I think ultimately, like I said, growing into adults, we've realized how important family is. When you hit the big bad world, family's really all you got, and you learn to work with it. So,
well, I hear you. I only have one brother. We're not twins, but I can tell you we have had some knockdown, drag out fights. But at the end of the day, that's what I've got. It's me and him versus in a lot of ways. So that's what we've got. So I relate. I cannot relate to spending 12 hours on a set with him without me wanting to drown him somewhere. But no, so kudos to you both, because that is its own special skill for sure. So that was going to be my next question. Is it something that you're working to, you like to work together? And I'm sure that when the right opportunity comes along, you guys will work individually and act as well. So that's
We've actually in getting back into this, entertainment industry, the whole thing, we thought that originally we were just going to go back in as actors. And so we figured, kind of like what Brent said, not only do we work well together, but the twin brand, it's a brand. People know us together, for better, for worse. And it's unique, it sets you apart. But what we've actually found is we've been writing a project for about a little over a year now, and it's in the latter stages, which we're really excited about. But we have discovered a total passion for writing and writing together. We work really well together, like a well-oiled machine, because we are individuals and we both bring to the table our individual perspectives and ideas and stuff. But we're also similar enough to where we can almost read each other's thoughts to know what's going on in the other guy's mind. And, Brent doesn't have to take a half an hour to explain to me his idea. I get it off the bat. And so we work really
it's like a supercomputer.
It's amazing. Yeah. We work really efficiently and, exponentially faster than probably say an individual or even two close writing partners who aren't in the same family would. So we've learned to be civil. And like I said, that doesn't always come naturally. And that just goes with spending time with anybody, whether it's your spouse or your brother or your sister or a close friend. You spend too much time with anybody, there starts to be tension and stuff. It's no different with us. So we've learned how to balance, when we start getting at each other's throats and we start getting a little tense with each other, we'll take a break from the project or whatever we're working on and go see friends or we'll go ride our motorcycle somewhere and spend some time apart. And then by the time we get back together, we're like, okay, ready to go again.
And most of the time that's successful. Most of the time, it's not foolproof, but we do our best.
Well, I'm super excited. Congratulations on the writing project. I'm excited to see that happens. Welcome. I'm so happy you guys both took a break to go learn and do what you did and then come back to bring us joy, because we've enjoyed watching you grow. We've enjoyed the projects and work that you've done. You are a part of many of our favorite television and film moments. So I'm excited to see you've only just begun. This is only the start. And I'm excited to see what you guys both have up your sleeve in the future.
I appreciate it. We thank you for the kind words, and we're excited to be back and just to share what we think we have to offer with the industry again.
And we don't even know what that's going to be. You know, only time will tell, right?
Only time will tell. Commercials, TV, film, theater, writing, producing, directing, whatever the world is, it's coming. So I'm excited to see what's next.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you both for being here so much today. It was a pleasure to catch up with you. I'm excited to chat and thank you. I really appreciate it. There you have it. Isn't that fun? Look at how great they are. Twins. My goodness, if I was a twin, can you imagine two of me? I don't know about all that. Thank you for joining us. We're live every single week, plus a bonus episode. So make sure you subscribe, like, comment, click notifications so when we're live, you can join the party. We're here every single week. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Robert Bannon. Have a good one.